Hello ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to Fallen London. Today we're going to be carrying on with this serial story, Evolution, and we've just made our way to Irem. So let's go in the Youthful Naturalist's footsteps. You will walk together through the pillared city's streets. He will consult the map you both made, turning left, pivoting right, striding down avenues carpeted with snow and rose petals. "I know where we are going," he'll tell you again and again. Whenever you reach a crossroads, "It's on the map, this way," he'll say, choosing a lane and leading you forward. Let's follow the route you've already plotted. Even on land, the map's serpentine currents will shape your bearings. Again and again you will come to a fork. Again and again the youthful naturalist will pore over the map, point with an aha and march into the next moment. He will leave footprints in the snow, which you'll have to follow when he walks too far ahead. He will vanish around corners, and you'll quicken your own pace again and again to catch him. Down one boulevard, you see the house of the amber sky, which the naturalist will not approach. Down another, you'll see a riddle fisher, robes like sunset rays dragging through the petals as she strolls to the market, but he won't approach her either. "No riddles right now," he'll explain. "The answers could throw us off course." His words will echo in your head. Every map needs a key. Snow will continue to fall, petals to blow between pillars. When tomorrow's tomorrow finds you sitting alone on a terrace, crimson cushions, steaming coffee, you will not have slept well, despite your accommodations. Silk sheets, privacy, peace. In the square below, people will pass, musicians play, weavers display tapestries, but the youthful naturalist will be absent. Mnemonic comprehension, temporal comprehension, monastic comprehension, mechanical comprehension, organic comprehension, or cartographic contemplation. I do like snow. Let's contemplate the falling snow. You will look toward the false stars and see the air sparkle. You will sip your coffee with the naturalist, not on the terrace, not in Irem, in a cafe weeks before you arrived, when you were both yawning after the night's ordeal. Empty streets in the early morning, cats growling, then hissing, backs arched, retreating into the fog. His shadow sliding over alley walls, graffiti, posters for the Zayla's wife. You'll remember his silhouette's shape, the outgrowth from his spine, and how it flexed like a finger. Now he sat down, exhausted, inside the cafe. How the proprietor slipped out the back, how his finger dipped into the coffee for a taste. Let's stir your coffee. Darkness will spiral around your spoon. You will, indeed, have slept poorly. The House of the Amber Sky will provide you not only silk sheets, but feather bedding when you seek an evening's respite in Irem, which you will toss, turn, and talk in your sleep. You will dream about amber bubbling in a bathtub, and the sky, false stars aligned. In your dream, the naturalist will stumble from the tub, just as he stumbled 7 weeks ago, and flop onto the floor. His gelatinous skin will glisten. 2 stalks will protrude from his back. He will scream, and his scream will be yours, alarming the attendants in the house. The next morning, They will whisper as you walk to the terrace. Let's watch the people in the square. Sailors, merchants, prophets, priests. So many lives will intersect. Traders will barter for tapestries in the square, haggling with the weavers. 5? Not enough. 6? Robbery. 77, the naturalist. 7 weeks ago will have told you. Threads will run through his body. He'll take one between his teeth, bite down and break the string. His sewing needle will drip amber blood. He'll want gauze. More needles too, more thread. And coffee. I'm so tired I feel halfway dead. Under his skin, foreign objects will wriggle, straining all 77 stitches. Let's breathe deeply. Perfume will infuse the atmosphere. The stone tentacle key in your hand will not be the key buried between the naturalist's vertebrae. You will have used another, and another, and another for the surgery. 77 stitches to close every wound, mops for the blood, buckets for the amber. Another day, another sleepless night, another needle through his skin to pull the thread along. And when you look at the key in your hand, turning it this way and that, you'll recall how he once held another to the light. A lamp overhead will have swung back and forth, throwing shadows and drawing them away. The key will gleam. Let's listen to the music. No other stringed instrument will ever truly rival the Iremi zither. Vital essences will course through forking veins. Your notes from Port Cecil will cover the floor. Amber condensation on the ceiling will drip, drip, with Saint Stalactite's rites guiding the naturalist's scalpel. Incisions will blossom like red roses in a garden. He will know where and when to wield the blade, cutting keyholes along the map's route. He will look over his shoulder the day before tomorrow's tomorrow and smile, encouraging you to keep up as he strides through Irem. He will walk the path, then trace the thread back to yesterday. Then we consider the tapestries. Even at a distance, their brilliantly dyed threads will catch your attention. In the house of the amber sky, attendants will keep whispering, mouths hidden behind hands, eyes sliding towards the terrace, where you'll sit with your coffee. But you won't hear their whispers. You'll hear jangling, clinking, squelching footsteps in your memory. Keys will dangle from the naturalist's body as he walks through Irem. His footprints in the snow will be misshapen by most anatomical standards. His stitches will ooze, he will vanish around corners, and you'll quicken your pace to catch him. Down one boulevard, the amber sky. Down another, sunset robes dragging behind a riddle fisher. No riddles right now, the answers could throw us off course, you'll remember him saying. He'll lead you to a crossroads, still consulting the map. But when he sees where the forks lead, he will weep. Now it's time to gaze towards the seventh serpent. You'll remember the ritual that you observed. 7 stone tentacle keys, 77 stitches for each, and 7,777 more to bind in sized sigils. For 7 days and 7 nights, 7 weeks before he stood at the crossroads and wept, the youthful naturalist will have laboured to apply his science. Amber, clock, compass, coffee, keep his dreams at bay, needle, scalpel, bone and blood. Words spoken and words unspoken. Still sleepless, he will finally kneel beneath the 7 serpents' ruby gaze. Snow will continue to fall, petals to blow. His elongated limbs will languidly coil and uncoil on the ground. His dreams will leak, at last, into his waking life, restrained until precisely now. All his stitches will start to slither. Let's approach the Seven Serpent. A monumental pedestal will rise above Irem. The Seven Serpent will coil upon that pedestal, carved scales encrusted with frost, jaws dripping with icicle fangs, ruby eyes watching the steps that bring travellers to supplicate themselves. It will receive their offerings and prayers, but it will confer no blessings. It will only be a statue, after all. Let's observe the youthful naturalist's supplication. His forehead will touch the ground. His lips will whisper sibilant words, first recorded in ancient ledgers. The Seven Serpent will bend to listen in a waking dream. After this point, you will part ways on the forking road that leads to the future. Uh-oh. Irem will stretch away beneath the Seven Serpents' gaze. Streets threaded into a great tapestry. Tapestries in the marketplace, fingered by merchants to inspect the weave. His fingers snaking through snow and roses. The naturalist's appendages will flex like tentacles. Stitches will bind his body. Their strings will intersect. Crossroads sewn into flesh. After the right, when he takes his next step, his future will fork like a dream serpent's tongue. You will follow him, tracing the thread, past to future, to present, again. He's already looking back over his shoulder. Well, he asks, smiling sadly. Shall we? He walks in 3 separate directions, and the world's tapestry rips. What follows is a glimpse of many possible futures. Explore, look around. Once you have visited each future at least once, you will be able to conclude the story. Okay, so, the loom, a forking future? The youthful naturalist is walking down the street to Wolfstack Docks. He's also turning the corner towards St. Fiacre's Cathedral, and he's strolling through the labyrinth of tigers and buying a ticket at Moloch Street Station and climbing ropes into the Flit. Alright, so what are we trying to get here? You need silken warp, sinewy warp, or a bombazine warp. I feel there's going to be quite a lot going on here. The thread in your hand, will you still hold on? What is this? Okay, let go. We'll return to Irem, but you'll lose all your warp. Okay, so I'm guessing a lot of it is done through random cards. Let's just have a look. Do we think that each of these is a separate thing? I don't think I've ever seen green with red spots on it before. As a card colour, we've definitely seen silver and green. Let's start with silver. Quite a mess to clean up. Some stains will never come out. This ring around the bathtub, for instance, where the amber bubbled for 7 days and nights. Toxins still drip from the ceilings, where boiling chemicals finally condensed. By following bloody handprints on the walls, you can track the subject's staggering attempts to brace himself, buckle down and start scrubbing. Despite the ordeal, this evidence is too important to let anyone else touch. This will give you silken warp. Card borders in Irem indicate which color warp each card gives. Okay, we can analyze the aftermath. You have worked wonders. Each splatter and stain testifies. Success will increase the naturalist's acceptance, malleability, and cunning. Let's just start scrubbing first. Let's see where this goes. You'd think someone had been slaughtered here, if you didn't know better. All these little bone fragments, the hair clogged in the tub, the scratches gouged by human nails, the cracked tiles, the teeth. There's enough organic matter certainly to constitute a fully grown person, at least judging by the weight, since most vital parts are missing. What you can't rinse down the drain, you have to bundle into bags before it starts to rot. Lovely. How many of these do I actually need? Oh, I just needed the one. Okay, let's drop into the Medusa's head. This has been a long week. You could both use a drink. The bishop was right all along, says the naturalist. All this trouble and it's just not viable. Not for me, anyway. My life's threads have been too tangled up since the day I was born, but at least now I see the full pattern. It helps. He wipes foam from his lips. Then he raises his eyebrows and looks at his pint. I've never realized how good this swill tasted before. It's delicious. Okay, another tolling bell, another tombstone to inscribe. The naturalist weaves towards his own death and his lawful duty as the new boatman. Silken warp has been reset. A conclusion or a new beginning? Do I have to do that again? Okay. So each one of these is going to require a silken warp to advance it, I think. So if I go quite a mess to clean up again, this should give us another silken warp. And I can come back in here again to listen to the eulogy. Something respectful and touching, no doubt. You don't completely absorb the tribute. You're listening to syllables, not words, and recording them in an order that will yield meanings later tonight. You have a technique, says the naturalist. He studies the decrypted message the next day, after you've broken the code and translated the hieroglyphs. I just wish we didn't have to resort to this. When I joined the university, it was not for the espionage. Can we do it again? Keep scrubbing. At some point, I feel like the other three things that are in that card are going to play. We're going to need to influence the naturalist down a certain path. Then it's drop into the Medusa's head again. I feel like I'm missing something here. Which doesn't surprise me. Let's click one of the other cards and see what happens. Unnatural Selection Volume 2. In second-hand bookshops, literary archaeologists can sometimes still unearth the first volume. Heavily redacted, obviously with Chapter 2, The Anatomy of the Frostmoth, entirely expurged. The second volume, commissioned by the Ministry of Public Decency and dedicated to dismantling assertions from the first, was received more warmly. You see, this will increase the naturalist's malleability and cunning. I don't know where this plays yet. But let's take tea with the dusty ornithologist. During your occasional exiles, the author's grave is frequently open. His latest research on L. terratris is progressing well. As he pours more tea, a few specimens drop from his bandages into your cup. You discuss the horrors of the academic world, censorship, coercion, peer review. Whenever peers of the realm are involved, editors with visions, plagiarism, poor funding. It's so hard to hire competent assassins, he remarks. One lamp or two. That was a sinewy. We've done silken, that was sinewy. Make your way to Leadbeater and Stainrod. You have an appointment at the Fifth City's foremost shipyard. Messers? I don't think I've ever seen that word before. I don't know how I've never come across this before, but it's the plural of Mr. Somehow that has never come into my life. So it would be what? Messrs. Leadbeater and Stainrod are willing to offer a generous consulting fee. The implacable detective has been dropping hints, and they'd like to pick the naturalist's brain about the Medusa's dream. After an hour, he leaves with an average month's wages. Not bad, is it? I thought we failed, but perhaps our research has alternative applications. Knowledge itself has value, especially this knowledge. Okay, so that reset both of my warps here. At this thread's end, the naturalist will die and reshape life and death. Ooh, Carganian. Oh, hello. We've got some new ones here. Carganian patrol vessels. The tortoise is no longer ascendant. The Palace of Jade has been razed. The Leopard Khan has withdrawn to the Vermilion Court to cultivate his spirit through meditation, scriptural study, and worldly detachment. From a temporary stronghold in the Hummingbird Tower, the Timon clan controls all trade along the eastern Undersea. So we can obtain documents for a safe passage. No ship can pass the white and gold blockade without drawing notice. We can rendezvous with the subtle machinist. She commands the Khan's own heaven's blessing, though not on paper. Successfully increase the naturalist's melee ability and decrease his acceptance. I don't have temporal comprehension, apparently. Well, let's go with the sinewy warp again. I feel like I'm going round in circles here. Within a week, the Timon's naval presence will extend to Polythrone. Within a month, the southern archipelago. In the Blue Bazaar, tigers scoff as they smoke their hookahs. Nothing we haven't seen before, is it? Articles in the Gazette openly mock the Carganian ambassador's mistress, and privateers from Geiger's Morn place bets on who can sink more Primarians. But the Brass Embassy has already surrendered tribute. 10 seeds from hell, each more precious than a prince's death. Shops along Lady Bones Road quietly add a few pennies to every price, and when the persuadable bureaucrat applies his stamp after your increasingly obscene bribes, he mutters about still charging too little. So my question now, I have another sinewy warp. What happens if I get another sinewy warp? Or should I just do one at a time? Get dinner at Dante's, let's see if we can get more than one. Reservations are almost impossible to get. Ever since the menu began featuring prime cuts from Adam's Way, all the tables have been booked months in advance. But you know a certain diplomat whose party, this evening, would gladly accommodate another guest. The ember-eyed hostess escorts you to a private dining room. We can trade gossip with the presbyterate diplomat and the bishop. So unreliable. He was meant to have your seat tonight. Or we can address the prime cut on your plate. Using our monstrous anatomy, successfully increase the naturalist's melee ability and decrease his acceptance. Let's see if we can get another sinewy warp. Did you know he was courting the Empire of Hands? At this very table. The ambassador sat where you're sitting, not to mention his dalliance with the Calendar Council. Of course, a mere politician such as myself wouldn't know anything about Death's contract and how various legal contingencies might come into play were a replacement, say, to flout the terms, but the council would be discontent. The bishop is starting to fathom the risk, hence, my friend, his absence and your presence. The presbyterate diplomat lights a cigar. There are risks, and there are risks. My position affords me a view. Not a very pretty view, but long. I can see the storm ahead. Let's talk umbrellas. Okay, so that's dinner at Dante's again. I guess we ask some pointed questions? Another cadaver lies on the table. Your blades are arrayed in neat rows. Before you begin, the cadaver coughs, and then says sorry, and swears to hold still. As you can see here, says the youthful naturalist. He's addressing scholars in a surgical theatre. They crane their heads to inspect the cadaver's open chest. The cadaver's head also cranes to better follow the demonstration. God damn it. I guess the only one we haven't done is the dark green border. Let's see. Verducci paces the solar, muttering under his breath. The discreet Sybarite watches him without a word, eyes roving left, then sliding right. As he walks back and forth, she idly plucks a cherry from a dish and starts to nibble. The great black box in the room's center is open, revealing the model Neath nested inside. Hey, she holds the Dillman Club's purse strings. We can present our plans to the discreet Sybarit. She holds the Dillman Club's purse strings these days. You'll need her support. So this is acceptance and malleability, and I have a high chance to actually pass this one. We can inspect the model with Fiduci. He stops pacing to stare at the landscape contained in the box. Let's just get the bombazine warp. Since you last looked inside, the landscape has changed. Miniature tracks representing the Great Hellbound Railway have been installed to the west. A model train runs down the line, puffing between tiny stations. But Fiduci's attention is bent to the south, around the Presbyterate territory, where a half-dozen silver needles once marked the border. Now there must be 24. Additional clusters pierce the Elder Continent at different points, and right beside fallen London, the prick finger wastes sparkle even more. "I can smell blood," says Fiduci. "Nida is baring her fangs." Let's visit the Mythendrake office, I guess. Illuma Forking Future. I think there's something going on with these have different names. And different times, different things are happening. Right now, I'm just going to look through everything and see if we can work it out. Let's visit the Mythendrake office. He's walking down to Wolfstack Docks and he's going to the Mythendrake office instead. Paperwork and propaganda. What would life be without them? "How is anyone supposed to sort through this?" asks the naturalist. Files, ledgers, clippings, journals, hundreds teeter on the desk. He's trying to determine their veracity, but the facts simply refuse to add up. Pages stick to his slimy fingers. Tentacles, his own, wrap around his ankles, dragging him suddenly under the desk. Stories and threads scatter everywhere. The Citadel's courtyard. Salt pours through broken pipes, cascading into a pit. The Imperial Translator's head rests 40 paces from her body. Fragments of her shell are still scattered across the flagstones. You kneel, with both hands locked in manacles behind your back, while the hunched Inquisitor speaks to the woman in green. So this will let us do... increase his cunning and decrease his malleability. Using our shadowy, huh? Well, let's listen to the interrogation. Not that you'll understand much, for self-evident reasons. In the 100-tongued city of Caution, lexicons mingle promiscuously. But in the kingdom of Klein, those closest to the Citadel speak only the language of grace, indirect, elliptical, shaded with meanings so fine that all the words fade into hints, and every sentence is non-committal. The speakers have less to regret. Although you're not fluent, you can tell that the hunched Inquisitor is displeased, perhaps by the fact that the woman in green can talk back. He isn't supposed to know how to do that. The attentive warden needs no hint to tighten the screws. This is the loom a manifold future. Fallen London phrase, within this single future, countless others are bundled like cords braided into a rope. Now the rope uncoils. Living threads wrap around your limbs. Climb down the rope, quick, before it completely unravels. You land on both feet. The Youthful Naturalist slides down next, and then lights the rope on fire. Special constables shout from the rooftops, unable to follow you further. But they take aim. Bullets ricochet off the cobbles. "Run!" says the naturalist. Okay, so now I've been to every future, I feel. In some way or another. So now I just need to work out how to make them keep going in the direction I want them to go. I'm thinking maybe the key here is we have to mix what type of thing we want. So let's start with, we haven't done Across the Desert of Delights. Behind you, years and travails and bloody betrayals. Alliances shattered and reforged. Crowns broken. Gifts poisoned. The moon pearls still shimmer green in your dreams. 3 hellworms dead. Flesh ravaged by the Prester's dogs. Armies lost to carnivorous swamps. But ahead, spires twinkling over the dunes. The 7-walled city awaits. You can enter the Parmesian Gate. Nida is yours. No obstacle remains. It's my Sunless Seas ending right here. could bask in the mountain's light. This would increase the naturalist's malleability and decrease his cunning. Alright, let's get the silken warp. You stride towards the holy city with your troops in tow. Just there, right there, the gate stands open, less than an hour's march at a leisurely pace. Your pace is not leisurely, yet 2 hours pass, and 3. Neither is always still further away, much further, months past the desert's last dune, sheltered high on the mountainside, with treacherous passes and alpine valleys and eyes everywhere along the approach. But the mirage is closer, only a few hours away, at most. Okay, so we're at a forking future here, the walk to Wolfstack Docks. So if I drop into the Medusa's Head, which we've read before, what are the options here? So this is a mortal future. Incense hangs above the altar. The organs rumble with funeral dirge. Mourners reach for handkerchiefs. Devils murmur with polite concern. Far too polite in the pews. So we can either listen to the eulogy, which we've done before. We can glance into the casket with a sinewy warp, or we can reach for our own handkerchief. One must dabs one's eyes in these affairs. All the gossips will talk otherwise, so let's get a bombazine, if we can. Bombazine was the green border. Proposal for... Ooh, hang on a minute, we can determine the course of destiny. Let's do this! That seems way more exciting. You have seen far, with the cards you can see further still. Fateful prognostications. Weaving toward a future where you meet the Dillman Club, the youthful naturalist's fate will branch in many directions. His stitched cells will explore every path, despite any decisions you make. When you weave your own fate, however, you can follow the naturalist towards his survival, his annihilation, or down more peculiar avenues. All the threads overlap. Any path is possible. You find yourselves at a crossroads again, where the designs underneath the world may forecast different fates. When leaves settle in tea, when false constellations align, when cards fall in familiar patterns. Late one evening, you consult the deck. Okay, all the cards on the table. I think this is the thing that I've been trying to find. Sparkling cider fizzes in a crystal glass. The thirsty croupier takes another sip. His winnings vast, his cellar deep, his mind's eye brimming with golden visions. He reads cards for the Dillman Club whenever the stakes start to climb. Now he sits alone with you. One card, your colleague's fate, he says, and then he deals the card. Consider carefully, the youthful naturalist may have forking futures, but you can only follow him down one path. Once you pick a card to determine which path his fate weaving looms will close to you, and the naturalist will meet his destiny. So in order for this to work, we need to change him. Which seems a bit crazy, doesn't it? So we can have the Hierophant, or the Hierophant? I've always said Hierophant, but I think that might actually be wrong. He will die. His flesh, soul, mind, and spirit will rot. You will never again meet the man you know, but the old boatman will finally walk free, liberated by your colleague's death. We have the Wheel of Fortune. He will die, yet his spirit will live. He will row the slow boat, but he will disembowel the laws that would set its course. He will steer death itself like a ship's wheel, at his whim. Or the Hanged Man. He will live forever, but he will sacrifice himself. His future will never arrive. His present will entirely unravel, and he will lose his body and his humanity. And the great chain will break. Can we break the great chain? I feel like that's pretty integral. You know, the whole way of things. I'm in so far over my head right now. Okay, so in order to mess with this, we need to get his acceptance 6 at most. 6 at most on malleability. So I'd need to raise his cunning for the Hanged Man, raise his malleability for the Wheel of Fortune, and raise his acceptance. For the Hierophant, I appear to have, kind of messed this up. None of them are really close to what I'd expect. So what do we have the most of? We have the most malleability. We have 4, which means I should probably try and steer for the Wheel of Fortune. But then it's a case of finding out which cards actually lower things and higher things. I can't pick a card just yet. This is going to be a mess. Ooh, a golden card. What does this do? Warm, still air in the garden. Birds in the trees, but no birdsong. A bird bath in a mossy glade. The water in the bird bath shines so bright that you have to squint. It's reflecting the sun beating down overhead. A path winds away into the shade. But follow the future along the path? So this would increase the naturalist's acceptance and decrease his malleability. I think we wanted to keep the malleability high, so let's just drink the water and see what happens. You're so thirsty. Sunlight cupped in your palms. Sunlight burning your thirst away. Sunlight burning everything away. You open your eyes in a feverish sweat. Your bedclothes are drenched. The unlikely florist dabs your forehead with a cloth. You almost didn't make it back there. Just a few more hours and even this wouldn't have helped. She lifts a silver spoon filled with gold syrup. Open up, time for another dose. When you swallow, the birds start to sing in the trees. Roses erupt into bloom. Sunlight pours into the glade until even your open eyes are blind. A memory of sunlight. You saw something inevitable. A perfect, unyielding light lingers in your memories. That'll disappear when we leave Irem, apparently. Okay, so I need to find out what does what. And I'm thinking this may affect what cards we can draw. So, right now we have what? Dinner at Dante's, which we can decrease his acceptance but increase his malleability. I feel like that's... I'm going to try it, see what happens. See what happens when we fail, because we're probably going to fail. We got some scandal. You seem to be having some trouble, says the diplomat. Too much gristle? Thanks. Surveying the wastes? What does this do? Will increase the acceptance and cunning. Oh god, so some do increase, some do decrease. Oh bugger. Ah, this is going to be a real pain, isn't it? Natural selection. How do I get back to the card that has the ability to pick a future? That's another problem, isn't it? Okay. Well, we wanted to increase his malleability, so let's try this. Let's go to Shadowy for a second. Incognito. See if we can actually pass this. Nope. Since when did Concord Square start patrolling the quadrangle? Constables are strolling in your direction. They're following a determined bloodhound that keeps sniffing your footprints. You weave between students attempting to shake the dog's scent. Midnight at Port Carnelian? I don't think we've seen this one. Arts Cross House is chilly tonight. Cigar smoke drifts from the drawing room, lingering after an audience with the Monkey Queen's cousin. Your other guests have retired. The excommunicated heiress with her wards to a private wing, the Minister of Culture to the fungal jungle, the cobwebbed captain to his encampment amongst Vestia's spider dragoons. You're still awake, working by the candlelight. Okay, so here's one of the determine the course of destiny. Let me just have a look in here again. I don't know which one I actually want to do. But I think I need to write this down because I am going to forget. It seems to be just 1 of 7, everything else below 7. But it's... I want to do Hierophant. Wheel of Fortune. I kind of want to do the Hanged Man, but... So we need more cunning. Let's try and do the Hanged Man. I want more cunning. So we need to try and get our cunning above... I need to get a book, don't I? Okay, let's decline. Right, so I'm gonna look around a bit, see if I can work out a way of increasing our cunning. Well, by the way, wasn't here cunning? It was, and that's watchful. I stand a good chance of actually being able to do this. Surveying the wastes, Mrs. Plenty's carnival roars with light and music in the distance. You can still smell rubbery lumps, freshly fried as you head deeper into the prick-finger wastes beyond the arcade. Stalagmites, great and small, glint like daggers. Without sturdy shores, countless sharp pebbles would dice your feet to ribbons. Right, let's see if we can do this. This will increase our acceptance and cunning, which is kind of bad. Right, so now they're both at 3. This could take a while. I'm not sure I'm going to have enough actions here. We also got a basket of rubbery pies and an unusual love story. I mean, I could do it again. But the problem I have here is I'm increasing my acceptance and my cunning at the same time, which means I'll need to find a way of lowering my acceptance. So this will increase his acceptance and decrease his cunning. Right, let's do this again. So now they're all 4. All of them are 4. Doing well. Okay, I mean, I can keep doing this until there's got to be one that lowers malleability and acceptance, right? Without knowing all the cards, this is quite risky. There might not be. Let's just keep going for now. Oh, I failed. Poop. That did not fully do it. So that made the acceptance go to 5. But the cunning is still at 4. Which means we're getting... I should probably be looking at how much I'm actually getting here. It does not appear to be the same. It does not appear to be equal. This is more acceptance than it is cunning. Okay. But what we can do is we can increase his acceptance and decrease his cunning. I'd like to decrease my acceptance. Let's go for the Bombazine Warp. Back on here. Let's reach for our handkerchief. Where does this take us? Could give us different options. Yeah, this takes us to the Citadel Courtyard. Increases cunning, but decreases malleability. Well, we can do that. It's shadowy though, so we're in trouble. 68%. Let's spend a hastily scroll now. I've got 100 of these bloody things. We fail. We failed. Lovely. Try that again. Okay, so now the cunning is at 5. Oh, would this work if I just kept doing this over and over and over again? Malleability is still at... Well, it's at 3? And acceptance hasn't changed. And we got a pair of iron manacles and a flask of abominable salts. With a jangle, your manacles clink to the floor. Not one moment too soon. The whole citadel shakes. Something massive stirs deep underground. Soldiers fall. The Inquisitor stumbles, grasping for support, and only succeeds in dragging the attentive warden down. Overturned on their shells, they skitter and roll like billiards when their flagstones crack and the courtyard buckles. The youthful naturalist, chained to a wall, fumbles with the keys in his fingers. He tries one, then another, grimacing with each error. A gargantuan tongue squirms from the pit. The naturalist twists the right key in his skin, unlocking another future. Again. Okay, so now cunning is at 6. We're getting close. Malleability is at 2. And acceptance is still at 5. Let's keep going. Let's try again. Oh, all hands on deck. That's not the right one. Oh, we'll increase the cunning and decrease his acceptance. Wait, we can do this. Captain of the Seas. 70% chance. All hands on deck. Another Zayla screams, dragged overboard. The stolen river surges and spills into London's streets. You struggle to man your ship's helm, but something is jammed. Bricks smash into your deck like hail. Hood's bridge is collapsing. The Hater's bridge too. Masonry crumbles. Horses and carriages plummet into the waves. What the hell is happening here? Let's steer through the rising flood. Debris churns in whirlpools. Londoners splash and panic. Increase cunning, decrease acceptance. Seems good. We're almost there. As the waters rise, they carry ships into the streets. Your hull scrapes past honey dens and townhouses. The stolen river is glutted with arms, claws, teeming elbows, popping joints. Hands wrap around buildings and lampposts and people and squeeze. The Youthful Naturalist is kneeling on your deck, eyes closed, mumbling to himself. He's counting something on his fingers, long fingers, boneless, tipped with barbs. More writhe from his spine. One flexes to probe his chest. It finds a soft spot, sinking between ribs, just before the roof quakes, and a roar from the prick finger wastes. You wrestle the wheel to starboard, as stalactites crack and topple. We gained 7 tales of terror. Good lord, these futures do not seem very good. Ow, we failed. Your ship collides with a yacht. Then a clipper, rowboats, tramp steamers. Every vessel from Wolfstack docks is crowded into the stolen river, pushed by the currents and the hands under the surface. Indeed, there's more flesh than water. Arms slither like eels, overturning piers. Knuckles wash across warehouses, shipyards, pummel dockside pubs to splinters. The Untersee itself seems to roll back, gathering into a towering wave before crashing into London. Claws glitter like foam along the crest. This is fine. Nothing to worry about. Okay, cunning is at 7. I think we've done it. 7. Malleability is still at 2. And acceptance, I realise on my notes I've actually been writing those the wrong way around. It's fine. Now we have to see if we can actually get to the... yeah, determine the course of destiny. Here we go. The Hanged Man. It's the whole he will lose his body and his humanity and the great chain will break. How is that not the most interesting option here? I am interested in the other options, but I don't think we're going to have the option to actually do them. We'll see. So, the Hanged Man. He will live forever and he will sacrifice himself. His future will never arrive. His present will entirely unravel. He will lose his body and his humanity, and the great chain will break. At a crossroads in the pillared city, you look down. Threads like boulevards, each leading to another fate. The House of Chimes will strike London's last hour as the 7th joins the second hand. The citadel at Klein's Centre will fall, and Orchard House will burn. The wax wind's sister will rise. Your own skull, branded with sealing sigils, will decorate the bazaar's tallest spire, as more threads unravel, revealing paths beyond number. But down every path, the Youthful Naturalist will die. Again and again, he unlocks new futures. Again and again, his skin sloughs. He's counting his fingers, but more always sprout from his hands. More hands sprout from his arms. His arms are pulled between the threads, blood, saturating, warp and weft. He finally slips through the looms completely, as a fish slips through your net with a splash. You're anchored just offshore at Hunter's Keep. Atop the hill, the house is dark. No candles have brightened the windows for months. Sea breezes rustle the tall grasses along the beach. Back in London, the dockers are marching again on Giblet's Wharf, and the Velocipede Squad's chief officers draw spectators at Hangman's Arch. The Noughts and Crosses are making a killing by selling rotten fruit. Gillibrand and Seal's latest is playing to full houses. Doubt Street thunders with clattering keys and presses. There's a new exhibit at the Labyrinth of Tigers. A. Oises the Regretful Jellyfish. In Tyrant's Gardens. Trysts. In Wilmot's End, briefcases under benches. The fifth city's heart throbs with life. But you float away from the gas lamps and noise. You peer overboard, watching the fish swim toward a sunken light. Is there something familiar there? Something ever-changing, never dying, shameless and shameful, something free? Around your ship, the currents start to spiral. You ready the jellied eels and wait for the abyss to open. The thirsty croupier reclaims the card and reshuffles the deck. Behold the design. Now with the threads interwoven, you see the tapestry's pattern yourself. All the days roll away to reveal the skeleton beneath time's skin. Stained glass bones, vital essences coursing through serpentine veins, forked tongues flickering everywhere, with the prisoner's honey still sweet on your own tongue. Amethyst livers and tourmaline lungs, and carbuncles pumping with carnelian blood. Glittering ruby eyes. Let's gaze into the ruby eyes. 7 pairs, light and life, both captured within their facets. The seventh serpent will coil atop its pedestal. Its ruby eyes will reflect the future. Fate's thread will dangle from its jaws like a mouse's tail, and you will seize it. Your research is complete. You know the technique. Destiny sprawls, vivisected at your feet, with the youthful naturalist's life only one pattern in the tapestry. You will reach beyond his looms to weave another fate, your own. From London to Clyne to Venderblight, from Port Cecil to Godfall to Geiger's Morn, from the undersea's spiraling depths, your life's map will always lead you to Irem. Congratulations, with your assistance, the youthful naturalist has achieved his ambition, and you have reaped the knowledge to shape destiny itself. The Dillman Club still awaits your final report in London, but your Iremi fate weaving has only just begun. When you approach the Seven Serpent, the future will open to you. Well, that's probably going to be a subject for another video, or something in a completely different time here. Knowledge of the crossroads, the riddle fishers, matters of destiny, the Seven Serpent revisited. Let's have a look here before we head off. I mean, not that I have enough actions to get back to London to speak to the Dillman Club. So I'm probably going to have to take a quick break in my recording here, but let's have a look at the riddle fishers, a matter of destiny. The inhabitants of Irem will recognize you as someone who has wandered the paths. Their nets shall open to you. So, obtain a curious promissory note. It will be strangely familiar. This will allow you to obtain one of the destinies exclusive to Irem. You can always change from one of the ordinary destinies to one of the greater destinies that can only be claimed in Irem. But once you do, it'll be harder to change destiny. It can only be done at certain times of the year, or by spending fate. I guess I can pick up the promissory note? I don't think it makes that much of a difference, does it? Let's pick it up. Much later, when you sail away from this place, you will question where you purchased the document and what price you paid. Your own signature will blaze on your mind's eye like a sigil. Seek the Seventh Serpent, re-enter the loom, find a thread to bind to yourself. Let's have a look. I think the Seventh Serpent revisited, a monumental pedestal will rise above Irem. This seems like something that needs either a video of its own or something else. I feel like this is going to be a little bit of a long thing, and I don't have enough actions to look at it now. So I think I will go back to London, and I will put, on the end of this episode, we'll go back, we'll speak to the Dillman Club, we'll see what that is. This is going to be a long episode, but we're right at the end of the story, and I don't feel like making another episode just for that. So I'm going to pause my recording here. I'll see you all back in London. And here we are. We made our way back to London. Another file for the archives. All things considered, your final report is fairly slim. A great deal is written in code, naturally, and should future scholars follow the myriad footnotes back to their sources, they'll need mountaineering gear to scale the academic heights. But you hold the youthful naturalist's fate in your hands, indexed, annotated, and secured with a paperclip. We deliver this file to his amused lordship.
Incredible. I knew you would succeed. Never nurtured a doubt.
The finer subtleties of your research, and indeed the broad brushstrokes, may evade his lordship's perfect comprehension, but he defers to an expert. Yourself.
Strings. Can you believe it? Little strings running all over the place. But you should tell them,
he says. and everyone at the table turns to listen, while the footmen bring out the fish. You speak to the assembled peers of the realm. They ask questions about the little strings, which you strive to explain are not strings in the typical sense. By the time Desert appears, they've clearly understood enough to sing your praises without understanding a thing.
Never mind about the Dillman Club,
says his lordship.
I'm hosting another dinner next week. Just a simple affair, more intimate than this. Her Majesty dislikes a crowd, but I'm sure I can slip your name onto the list.
You have completed your research with the Youthful Naturalist, but countless more stories await in Fallen London. Thank you for playing, delicious friend, and may your future flourish. So we got one cartographer's hoard. We got some renown with the society there. We got some more connected with Somerset and connected with Benthic. And we gained a lot of making waves, considering it was at 0 and now it's at 11. Good lord. And I do believe there may be a card in the deck. Oh, there you go. A dream about jellyfish. You dream that you're floating down a dark river in a slow boat. All around the boat, glowing jellyfish swarm. Purples pulsate. Pinks splash against the hull. Greens shimmer under the surface like an aurora submerged. Now the river isn't so dark anymore. Let's peer into the water. It's starting to slowly spiral. Towering tentacles rise from the depths. They twist themselves like braided threads into a great helix. Your boat spirals into the whirlpool along their coils, past the jellyfish, still shimmering, and also past electric eels and bound sharks and schools with twinkling scales like false constellations. Midnight whales float in the vortex's walls, almost close enough to touch, alongside turtles, rays, narwhals, z-snakes, and red and yellow bands, ancient ichthyosaurs, cuttlefish, spurting Apochean ink, coral castles and crawling crustaceans, and blooming sargassum forests. You dip a hand into the water, tracing a trail through the glowing z-foam. What you pull out, oozing, is still clenched in your fist the next morning. But you can't remember how the dream ended. All that lingers is a fraying thread, and soon even that unravels. We gained a flute call. But I do believe that is in fact the end of evolution. This has been a many months project for me, and I hope you all enjoyed these videos. The series as a whole I thought was very good. Brilliant writing, interesting story, and best of all, you don't even need to be an exceptional friend to experience it. You can just do it yourself, and I think that is fantastic. I'm not sure what's next. Obviously, on the channel, there'll be the exceptional stories. I do believe there is an exceptional story waiting already. The After Hours in the Butcher's Shop. So that will be coming probably next week. I hope you all enjoy this. I hope to see you again. Thank you to the members of the channel. It really does help me make these videos. Like, subscribe, let me know what you thought. Let me know if you did the other options. I'm very interested to see what happens with the other options of the choice between the Hierophant, the Hangman, and the Wheel of Fortune. But, as always, I'll see you next time.